Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Wheels of Fury Road to Glory, a high-octane Necromunda Underhive Racing Campaign inspired by the Wheels of Fury rules supplement from Games Workshop. Deep beneath the hive cities and across the radioactive ash wastes, 10 outlaw racers risk everything in a brutal campaign of speed, sabotage, and survival. These aren't armies fighting for territory, they're desperate crews piloting heavily customized death machines through collapsing tunnels, toxic sump canals, ash waste highways, and riot-filled dome streets. Every race brings new upgrades, catastrophic threats, better rivalries, and legendary moments as drivers battle to become the undisputed Lord of the Road. And on today's episode, race number 4 is a demolition derby style race called Twisted Metal. And in this scenario, all our vehicles will be throwing it down in vehicular combat to figure out once and for all who will own the title of Lord of the Road for our campaign. Now, because this video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's get this battle part on the road by going about talking about our racing rosters.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
So race number 4 is called Twisted Metal. It's a demolition derby where vehicles will fight until there's only 3 vehicles left standing. Vehicle with the most wrecks will take first place, followed by the vehicle with the next highest kill count for second place, and finally the vehicle with the least amount of kills will be the third place winner. Now in case of a tie, the vehicle with the highest number of advancements will be the tiebreaker, and in the case of a second tie, where both have the same number of advancements, a d6 roll with the highest roll will be the tiebreaker on this one. Now for the rewards, if you took part in the race, you earn 25 credits as well as D6 experience points. For the first place winner, they earn 100 credits as well as 10 experience points. Second place earns 75 credits and 7 experience points. Third place will win 50 credits and 5 experience points. If you manage to complete the race but didn't score in the top 3, you get D6 times 30 credits plus 3 experience points. And for each race that you take out of action, you earn 50 credits as well as 5 experience points. So the scenario rules over with, let's go and talk about the deployment real quick. In the bottom left hand corner is race number 7, the Outlaw, which is our Bad Zone Pal Knight Ranger. This guy is also equipped with twin-linked concussion cannons. In the middle of the left table edge, right in the middle of the marketplace, is race number 8, the Meat Wagon, which is a corpse grinder rotor cult initiate who's driving a heavy custom vehicle with a missile launcher. On the battlefield's top left hand corner is race number 2, the Blade Runner, which is piloted by an Escher Hillian, who's also got anti-grav generators as well as twin-linked plasma guns. In the top center of the battlefield is race number 4, the Omni Blaster, which is a Vansar Technica who's piloting a mini vehicle with a mining laser as well as anti-grav generators. Smack dab in the middle of the tabletop is Brimstone, which is piloted by a Caldor Road Preacher, driving a custom walker vehicle with a heavy flamer. On the bottom edge in the center of the tabletop is race number 1, Roadkill, which is an Orlog Iron Rider driving a custom medium vehicle that has a grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades. On the right-hand table edge in the center of that deployment area is race number 5, the Grudge Bearer, which is an Ironhead Squat Gearhead piloting a custom medium vehicle with twin-linked melta guns. And finally, upper right-hand corner of the battlefield is race number 6, Booster Gold, which is a Guild of Coin hauler piloting a custom rig with a rock grinder ram. And that's going to make up the deployments for this one. So with deployments over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and the racers roll for initiative to see which of them will be going first. So the top of turn number 1, the Outlaw is going to get the initiative on this one, so he'll get the very first activation for this turn. So for his very first activation, the Outlaw does a simple move forward, moving up a maximum of 7 inches, that way he's got a good line of sight directly towards the Meat Wagon, and followed up by another move and shoot basic action, moving up forward 3.5 inches and opening fire with his twin-linked concussion cannon directly at the custom heavy vehicle. As you can see from this overhead shot of the battlefield, the Meat Wagon, of course, is a perfect line of sight. Now that he's going to get partial cover because of those small walls that are located there, and basically the Outlaw's firing through that gap between the walls in order to hit against the Meat Wagon. So the Outlaw is firing twin-linked concussion cannons. It's got a 9-inch short range and 18-inch long range, striking at strength 4 with -1 AP and 2 damage with a 4+ for the ammo roll on this one. It also comes with a 3-inch blast template attack and also provides concussion, knockback, seismic, as well as twin-linked. Now the Outlaw, of course, has a ballistic skill of 2+, but because of that partial cover, it's going to lose 1 to its hit roll, meaning that the Outlaw needs to roll a 3 or higher in order to hit against the Meat Wagon. So the hit is good, and with a roar of gunfire, a 3-inch blast typically erupts right on top of the meat wagon, striking at strength 4 against the meat wagon's side toughness of 7. So because of the outlaw will need a 5+ in order to wound, and unfortunately for the outlaw, he does fail that wound roll. However, even though he fails the wound, though, it is not the end of destruction. Because of the concussion as well as the seismic special rules, the meat wagon has to take a handling test. Suffers a -2 that handling test for the rest of the round due to concussion, and the seismic trait means that the meat wagon must also make a handling test as well. Now, typically the meat wagon has a handling of 6+, with that -2 for concussion though, and must roll a 8 or higher in order to pass. And unfortunately for the meat wagon though, he fails and becomes stationarily installed. And as fate would have it, the meat wagon gets to activate next, so the very first thing he must do, of course, is to do a jumpstart action. Now, normally he has a handling characteristic of 6+, but is suffering -2 to the handling score due to the concussion. However, though, it does balance out a little bit, though, because he does get a +1 handling check for a jumpstart action, and plus he also has an easy turnover engine, which also can kind of overall overturns the concussion trait applied to the meat wagon. So because he needs a 6+ order to pass, and of course he manages to pass his handling check, no problem. For his second action, he decides to do a basic action with a move and shoot action, deciding to open fire with his missile launcher directly at the outlaw first before moving forward. So the missile launcher is firing a cracked missile with a 24-inch long, a short range, and a 48-inch long range. Gets +1 hit modifier because of the short range modifier. It's going to strike at strength 6 -2 AP and 3 damage with a 6+ for the ammo roll. With a blitz skill of 3, normally have no problem hitting this. However, though, he does have a couple of penalties as well as some bonuses to this shot. He suffers -1 hit due to partial cover on the outlaw because that wall is partially covering the vehicle, but he gets +1 modifier for the short range, so because it does cancel out. So because of that, the meat wagon needs a 3+ in order to hit. So the hit is good. He's striking at strength 6 versus a side toughness of 5, so because of that, the meat wagon will need to roll a 3+ in order to wound. The wound roll ends up being good, and because of that, a -2 AP is applied to the outlaw's armor save. Now normally the outlaw does have an armor save of 4+, with that -2 AP though it drops it down to a 6+ to save. Unfortunately, the outlaw does fail that and also suffers 3 damage. Now, originally the damage for this was a penetrating shot to the drive, but because they have a redundant drive system on the outlaw, it drops it down to a glancing hit, ends up being the tank slapper result. Basically requires a handling test for the outlaw. The outlaw has a handling of 5+ and manages to pass no problem, so nothing much really happens there. And the meat wagon also finished up the rest of its activation, moving 2.5 inches forward, right between the 2 market stalls of the marketplace that he is deployed at. The next vehicle to be activated is Roadkill, the Orlok Iron Rider. This is a medium custom vehicle equipped with a grenade launcher. The Roadkill does a simple move action forward in order to clear past the Red Rocket bar and grills, though it's got a good line of sight directly towards the outlaw, and then does a move and shoot basic action in order to fire its grenade launcher directly at the Paladite Ranger. Luckily for the Roadkill, it's not got to worry about the short range modifier for attack this grenade launcher directly at outlaw, so because of that, we go directly to the attack on this roll. So Roadkill is firing his grenade launcher, firing a crack grenade with a 6-inch short range as well as a 24-inch long range shot with a -1 to hit modifier for short range. Luckily for the Roadkill though, it is firing at the long range modifier. Now it is striking at strength 6 -2 AP as well as 2 damage with a 6+ ammo roll. Now the ballistic skill of 2+, there are no modifiers, positive or negative against Roadkill, so because of that, the Roadkill need to roll a 2+ in order to hit the outlaw. The hit is good, so because of that, the Roadkill is striking at strength 6 versus a front toughness of 5. With that modifier, ends up being a 3+ in order to wound. The wound roll is good on that one as well, and also the outlaw suffers a -2 AP for its armor save. Now normally the outlaw has an armor save of 4+, drops down to 6+, and unfortunately for the outlaw, it fails its armor save and suffers 2 damage. Unfortunately, it ends up being not a great hit. It ends up being a glancing hit to the engine, so because of that, the stutter damage is applied directly to the outlaw, which basically means the vehicle just becomes stationary installed, so nothing much really happened there. So because of that, the outlaw wants to activate on his next turn. It has to do a simple jump start action in order to be able to do anything on the tabletop. And in sort of a brave move, the Roadkill actually decides to finish up the rest of his activation by slowly moving forward directly towards the outlaw. I think the reason why this is the case is because this vehicle, I believe, also has a mine layer. So I think the idea here is supposed to be that the Roadkill wants to drop a melt-a-mine right in front of outlaw and then kind of peel out so that way it doesn't get caught in the explosion. But we'll see exactly how that gamble turns out later on. Meanwhile, in the top left-hand corner of the battlefield, racer number 2, Blade Runner, piloted by an Eshin Helion, decides to activate next. The Blade Runner does a simple move action to climb directly to the top of the cargo container, getting a good line of sight directly down below where the Omni Blaster is located at, and does a basic shoot fire all action directly at the Omni Blaster, firing its twin-linked plasma guns. So the Blade Runner decides to open fire with his twin-linked plasma guns on the low setting, actually striking at 12 inch for the short range modifier, so they get 2+ in order to hit at that short range. Striking at strength 5 minus 1 AP as well as 2 damage with an ammo roll of 5+. It does have rapid fire 1, the scarce, as well as the twin-linked weapon traits. And with a ballistic skill of 3+, the Blade Runner needs to get a 1 or higher in order to hit because of that +2 hit short range modifier. And the hit is good, and thanks to rapid fire, the Blade Runner gets 3 hits directly against the Omni Blaster, striking a strength 5 versus a side toughness of 5, so because of that, the Blade Runner needs to roll a 4+ in order to wound. All 3 hits wound against the Omni Blaster, and with -1 AP, it's going to affect the Omni Blaster's armor save of 4+. It's going to drop it down to a 5+, and unfortunately for the Omni Blaster, it fails all 3 of those armor saves and suffers 6 damage. So those 6 damage dice translate to a catastrophic hit to the engine, causing squelching smoke and flame. So because of that, for the rest of the turn, there's going to be some really powerful negative modifiers added to the Omni Blaster. The Omni Blaster, of course, is going to suffer 2 hull points because it drops down only 1 hull point left on its characteristic. It can't move faster than its movement allowance of 6 inches, so at any one time, the furthest it can move is 6 inches at a time, which is going to be quite horrible for it. It also needs to take a loss control test with a -1 to its handling, and with a handling of 7+, it does drop it down to a handling test of 8+ in order to pass, and looking for the Omni Blaster, though, he does manage to pass its handling test. So with that, we go directly to the center of the battlefield where Brimstone, racer number 3, the Kaldar Road Preacher with his custom vehicle, which is a custom walker vehicle. Now, unfortunately, in this battle royale, the Brimstone realized that he is actually the most fragile of all the vehicles on the tabletop. So instead of fighting, he decides to take the coward's way out. He takes both of his moon actions in order to nestle himself between both of these sheds as well as the stacks. They're located like next to him. Those are the Longstone Shats, which is basically a brand new piece of terrain that Iron Major made. It was very much inspired by the stacks, which are these trailers from the film Ready Player One, also the novel as well, the same name. And Iron Major made this hab block in order to resemble that as well. Another beautiful piece of terrain created by Iron Major. But as you can see, though, Brimstone is now actually pretty well protected by the Red Rocket Bar and Grill down below, the wall just north of him, as well as the 2 shacks to protect him. So he decides he's going to get snug in like a tick and not worry about getting shot at. So inspired by the courageous play made by the Brimstone, the Omni Blaster does activate next. But it does have a couple of problems. It does have a crippled hull with some hull points missing, and at the same time it can't move faster than 6 inches in any one of its turns. So for its very first activation, the Omni Blaster does a move simple action directly to the top of the shack that's right next to it. Just barely made it that 6-inch mark directly on top of the roof. And the reason why he did this is that way he's got a good line of sight directly towards the Blade Runner, which is directly in front of him. As you can see from this photo, the Omni Blaster does have a good line of sight directly towards Blade Runner, and he decides he's going to open fire with his mining laser with a fire all weapons action directly against the Escher Hellion. So the Omni Blaster is firing his mining laser with an 18-inch short range as well as 24-inch long range. Now luckily for the Omni Blaster, though, he's well within the short range, so he will not need to worry about that -1 to hit modifier for long range. He is striking at strength 9 with -3 AP as well as 3 damage, and with a ballistic skill 2+, the Omni Blaster just needs not have to roll a 1 in order to hit against the Blade Runner. The hit is good, and he's striking at strength 9 against a front toughness of 4, so because of the Omni Blaster will need to roll a 3+ in order to wound. The wound roll also passes, so he strikes at -3 AP against the Blade Runner's armor save of 4+, and negates the Blade Runner's armor save entirely, so because of that, the Escher Hellion suffers 3 damage directly to their custom medium vehicle. The damage for this one ends up being a catastrophic hit to the crew, so the driver does have a blackout because of that. Now, of course, the Blade Runner needs to pass a handling test because of lost control, and with a 7+ handling, it does manage to pass because the vehicle is stationary installed. However, though, the fighter is currently incapacitated, it is currently passed out, and can't do much of anything. In fact, during the end phase, they'll need to roll a d6. On a roll of 1 to 3, the fighter is still blacked out, and on a roll of 4 or higher, the driver can operate with a -1 ballistic skill and -1 to handling because they suffer flesh wounds. So at the end phase, we'll need to come back to the Blade Runner to see exactly what happens to that Escher Hellion. So the next driver to be activated is the Grudge Bearer, and he decides to actually make a simple move action using his heavy foot ability, so that way he gets clear of the meat grinder that's right next to him. The Grudge Bearer then follows it with a move and shoot activation, moving up a good short distance directly across from Booster Gold, and he decides he's going to open up with both of his twin melta guns directly at the vehicle. Now, unfortunately for Booster Gold, the Grudge Bearer is just an inch short of that short range modifier, so because of that, you're actually going to kind of help out Booster Gold, all things considered. So the Booster Gold's opening up with his twin-linked melta-guns with a 6-inch short range and 12-inch long range to get +1 to hit for the short range modifier. Unfortunately for the Grudge Bear though, he's just 1 inch shy of actually getting that short inch modifier. He is striking at strength 8 however with -4 AP as well as 3 damage with a 5+ ammo roll. He's also got the melta, scarce as well as twin-linked weapon traits attached to it. Now the Grudge Bear does have a ballistic skill of 2+, so because they need to roll 2 or higher in order to hit against Booster Gold. Now the Grudge Bear does manage to hit, but triggers an ammo roll because of that. So because of that result, the Grudge Bear decides to take advantage of the twin-linked special rule attached to its weapon. So they roll that ammo die again, ends up being good. So because he is striking at strength 8 versus a front toughness of 9, so the Booster Gold is no slouch. The Grudge Bear will need a 5 up in order to wound. Unfortunately for Booster Gold though, the wound is good, so because he is striking at -4 AP. Now Booster Gold typically has an armor save of 4+, with that 4 up, 4 -4 AP though, it's not going to do much good. His armor is about as good as a wet piece of paper. He gets no armor save and suffers 3 damage as well. So the damage dice go up and ends up being a catastrophic hit to the drive, which is going to be equal to a major malfunction. So with that major malfunction, Booster Gold is going to lose 2 hull points, dropping down to 4 hull points left. It also suffers -2 to all handling tests for the rest of the battle report, which means that its handling characteristic drops from a 7+ order to a 9+, which is going to be very hard for it to do handling tests. And unfortunately, it also fails its handling test as well, so the vehicle becomes stationary installed, which means that Booster Gold must do a jumpstart action if he wants to escape. So as fate would have it, Booster Gold gets to activate next in this battle report and has a handling characteristic of 9+. Now for his very first action, he decides to do a jump start, which then drops that handling test to an 8+ in order to pass, but unfortunately he fails his very first action in order to jump start the customer that is driving. Now he does a second time, but that time managed to pass, so the little serious injury die is now removed because now Booster Gold will be able to take normal actions as usual on the next turn, but unfortunately that pretty much makes up all of its actions for this turn. And with that, that takes us directly to the end phase, so we go back across the tabletop to the Blade Runner to roll to see if the fighter is conscious or not, and unfortunately for the Blade Runner is still unconscious, so the Astral Hellion is, of course, won't be able to do anything for the next turn. And that takes us directly to the end of turn number 1, a very much action-packed phase for this one, everyone moving around, opening fire on each other as well, but no one has been wrecked up to this point, so because of it, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and my friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will be going first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Outlaw will be going first for this turn. For his very first activation, the Outlaw does a Jumpstart simple action, and with a handling test of 5+ and getting a +1 bonus for the Jumpstart action, ends up being rolling a 4+ order to pass, and of course Outlaw passes no problem. And for its second activation, it decides to do a move and shoot basic action towards the roadkill. So the Outlaw slowly creeps up forward, so that way he's within the short range modifier of his twin-linked concussion cannons, and he opens fire directly at the Orlok Iron Rider. So once again, the concussion cannons are firing at a 9-inch short range with strength 4 as well as -1 AP and 2 damage with a 4+ ammo save. It is striking with a 3-inch blast template attack that causes concussion, knockback, and seismic, and also has the twin-linked weapon trait attached to it as well. And with a +2 ballista skill for the Outlaw, it gets a +1 modifier for hitting at the short range, so because it needs to roll a 1 or higher in order to hit against the Outlaw. The hit is good, and the very first thing that's happening, of course, is that the vehicle must take a -2 handling test for the rest of the round due to concussion, and because of the seismic weapons trait, the roadkill must take a handling test, and that handling test, of course, drops it to a 6+ in order to pass, but it's got a -2 for concussion. This drops the handling test to an 8+ in order to pass, and unfortunately for the roadkill, though, it fails it. So the directional die comes out for the loss of control test, and once again that cursed turnover rollover die does pop up again because this die is cursed by the Chaos Gods, so because of that the roadkill is going to flip. So in a fireball of debris and destruction, the roadkill of course does wreck, but unfortunately when it does, when they roll for the lasting injury table for the driver, end up getting memorable death. So just like that, the roadkill is now eliminated for the rest of the campaign, and our driver pool has dropped by another one because one person got killed right off the bat by the Outlaw. So absolutely tragic result for roadkill. And of course, Outlaw just proceeds to move up forward, driving by the wrecked ruin of what was once roadkill. Once a promising Orlok Iron Rider who is now no longer participating in the campaign because he got eliminated by a well-placed concussion cannon shot. So with that, we jump directly towards the meat wagon, which is the corpse grinder rotor cult initiate, who is still located right in the middle of the marketplace. His activation is quite simple, doing double movements forward. And as you can see in this close-up, the meat wagon ends up driving out of the marketplace and around the corner, heading directly towards the Omni Blaster as well as the Blade Runner. We then go directly to the Blade Runner, who is still unconscious. Because of that, she doesn't do much of anything because she is passed out behind the wheel. And Brimstone, the ever-faithful Caldor Road Preacher, decides that he's going to continue praying to the Emperor and begging him for mercy and hope that he actually survives this entire battle report, and he is still hiding out right next to the longshore stacks. So this time we're going with a move and shoot action with the Omni Blaster. He decides that he's got a good line of sight directly against Brimstone, actually, so he's going to open fire directly at the Caldor Road Preacher. And as you can see from his vantage point, he actually does a good line of sight directly towards Brimstone, so he's going to open fire with that mining laser directly at that character. Unfortunately, the Omni Blaster is firing at long range and also behind partial cover, so he does suffer a -2 hit penalty, which drops his Ballista skill to a Ballista skill 4+, and he misses the shot. He then finishes up the rest of his move and shoot action by moving directly to the edge of the shack that he is currently standing on. And for his second action, does a simple move action directly to the top of the sniper's nest. That way he's got a good line of sight of everything on the tabletop, and hopefully he can fire and snipe at positions with his mining laser. And that pretty much makes it the Omni Blaster's turn. So we then go back to the Grudge Bearer. The Grudge Bearer decides to do a move and shoot action against Booster Gold, just creeping up slightly, so that way he was in the short range modifier of his Twin Leans Melta-Guns. So he creeps up forward just a little bit, just to get within that short range modifier, decides to open up with his Twin Leans Melta-Guns directly against Booster Gold. Now he is firing his Twin Leans Melta-Guns, once again striking at 6 inches at the short range modifier, getting +1 to his short range hits, striking at strength, A -4 AP, 3 damage, as well as a 5+ ammo save. He's got the Melta Scares as well as Twin Leans weapon traits. He's striking at ballistic skill 2+, so because that he needs to order a 1 or higher in order to hit. The hit is good, but once again he also triggers an ammo check with his Melta-Guns, but he decides to take advantage of the Twin Linked weapon trait and re-roll. That result ends up being perfectly fine, so because he is striking at strength 8 against a front toughness of 9, and unfortunately for the Grudge Bearer though, he fails to wound. So for his very last activation, he decides to actually do a drop mine basic action and move on out, dropping his Melta Trap right there, right in front of the Booster Gold, and decides to kind of peel off as fast as he can, trying to get away from the blast radius of his Melta Trap. So we go back to Booster Gold, who decides that actually, as crazy as it may sound, the Grudge Bearer actually kind of made a mistake, and the reason why is because, unbeknownst to the Grudge Bearer, he's still within the blast radius of his own Melta Trap, and so because of that, Booster Gold decides to actually declare a ram double action directly against the Grudge Bearer. So because he declares a ram action against Booster Gold, he's got a 7-inch movement allowance already from his vehicle, but he also gets 4 inches from his Gliss Injector. He decides to activate that as well. Gets a 1 inch on the die roll, giving a 12-inch ram directly into the side of the Grudge Bearer. Not to mention, he also gets +1 for being a larger vehicle class than the Grudge Bearer as well. Plus, he gets +2 in all of his characteristics for having the Rock Grinder ram attached directly from the vehicle, which means that this ram attack is striking at strength 12 -6 AP as well as 6 damage. So with a strength of 12 against a side toughness of 6, Booster Gold needs a 2+ in order to wound against the Grudge Bearer. The wound is good, so because of that, there's a -6 AP against the Grudge Bearer's armor save of 4+, which means the Grudge Bearer receives no armor save whatsoever and also suffers 6 damage. Now, originally the damage to the system was actually a catastrophic hit to the drive. However, though, the Grudge Bearer does have a redundant drive system, so because of that, drops it down to a glancing hit to the drive. Because of that, the Grudge Bearer needs to take a handling test of 5+. It does pass no problem whatsoever, but here's the problem. Okay, both vehicles, because of the movement that Booster Gold made, it did trigger the Melta Trap, so because of that, the Melta Trap does explode. And here's where the crazy part triggers it. Because the explosion goes off, that 5-inch blast template goes directly in that area. Now, the way that the Booster Gold struck against the Grudge Bearer, he's perfectly fine and he's completely out of the blast radius. However, though, the Grudge Bearer, not so much. Just the very rear bumper of it is clipped by the blast template, so because of that, it does suffer a hit from the Melta Trap. So the Melta Trap is striking at strength 8 -4 AP and 3 damage with a 5-inch blast radius with the Melta and single shot weapon traits. It does hit the back of the Grudge Bearer, striking at strength 8 versus a rear toughness of 6, so because of the Melta Trap needs a 3+ in order to wound. The wound is good, and with a -4 AP against the Grudge Bearer's armor save of 4+, the Grudge Bearer receives no armor save whatsoever and also suffers 4 damage, and that's because of the Melta keyword being used in the weapon against the vehicle. This time it does hit the drive once again, and because a redundant drive system has been used up, it ends up being a catastrophic hit directly towards the drive. The Grudge Bearer loses 2 hull points as well as -2 to its handling test for the rest of the battlefield, and it also must take a loss control test. Now the handling test of 5+ is dropped to a 7+ to pass, and unfortunately it fails. When we roll the loss of control die to see what direction the Grudge Bearer will be traveling in, it does a rollover. So the Grudge Bearer does wreck, and of course the vehicles also move forward as well because the larger vehicle is colliding with a smaller class vehicle, so they move forward 12 inches. The Grudge Bearer is wrecked with the lessons learned lasting injury for the fighter, so because that he will go to recovery, but you'll earn, I believe, 1 experience points from this, and he also gets a damaged bodywork to the vehicle, losing 1 toughness to all of its characteristics as well. And I think the lesson learned here is make sure that you are very aware of where that explosion is going to take place if you decide to drop a melta trap. And with that, that takes directly to the end phase, so of course we go back to the Blade Runner to see if the fighter is awake. Unfortunately, the Blade Runner failed its unconscious driver test, so because he's still passed out behind the wheel, so she will not be able to do anything in the next turn. So that directs directly to the end of turn number 2, and here's overshadowed the battlefield. A very action-packed turn as 2 vehicles were absolutely wrecked, with 1 person being eliminated from the contest. As you see, Outlaw is kind of skirting the very bottom of the battlefield with the Brimstone hiding out right in the middle of it. Booster Gold, of course, is now wrecking face at the upper right-hand corner of the battlefield. Unfortunately, the Blade Runner is still passed out top of those cargo containers. The Meat Wagon is trying to get into the fight, and as you can see, Omni Blaster has retreated directly to the top of the Sniper's Tower. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3. My friends roll off for initiative and see which of them will be going first. So with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and Booster Gold will be gaining the initiative on this one, so he will be activating first. So Booster Gold actually does a short little pivot away from the wreckage of the, the Grudge Bearer, and basically does a double movement forward directly towards the Meat Wagon in order to cause a head-on collision. So because he goes directly into the front of the Meat Wagon with a head-on collision as well, traveling 7 inches in order to make that connection against him. He lost a couple edges because he had to back up a little bit and then move on forward in order to strike against the Meat Wagon. So when it comes against the damage against the Meat Wagon, of course, he gets +1 to his modifier for being a larger vehicle class, as well as +2 modifier for having his Rock Grinder ram. So his 7-inch collision ends up translating to a Strength 8 -4 AP 4 damage attack against the Meat Wagon. So because of that, the Booster Gold is striking a Strength 8 versus a front toughness of 7, ends up being a 3+ in order to wound. The wound is good, and so because that the Meat Wagon has to suffer a -4 AP. Now the Meat Wagon has an armor save of 4+, with that -4 modifier, however, though he gets no armor save and suffers 4 damage as well. Once again, that ends up being a catastrophic hit to the drive, which would cause a major malfunction for the Meat Wagon. The Meat Wagon suffers -2 hull points because that loses that, and also suffers a loss of control test with a -2 for its handling for all of its handling tests for the rest of the battle. Now originally the Meat Wagon does have a handling of 6+, which drops it down to 8+ in order to pass, and unfortunately the Meat Wagon fails its handling test, and when they roll for the direction of dice to see exactly what ends up happening, the cursed rollover shows up once again. I swear to God, that die is cursed by Khorne itself because it wants to see blood. So because of that, the Meat Wagon is going to roll over and it's going to get wrecked. So just like that, the Meat Wagon is wrecked. The driver suffers a critical injury, so because they'll need to do a medical or surgical mission to see exactly what happens to him. Luckily, the Meat Wagon does have a lot of credits in its stash, so it should be able to pay for that medical or surgical mission no problem. And the vehicle suffers a loss of power, so because it has -1 to its movement characteristic for the rest of the campaign or until repairs are made against the vehicle. So next to be activated is Outlaw. Once again, Outlaw decides to do a move action followed by a move and shoot basic action to open fire on Brimstone. As you can see, Outlaw moves directly past the market stall for the Red Rocket Bar and Grill, has a good line of sight directly at Brimstone, decides to open fire with the grenade launcher, firing a crack grenade, but unfortunately because of the partial cover between the Outlaw as well as Brimstone, the shot ends up being missed, so because of nothing much happens there. And unfortunately the Blade Runner is still unconscious, so because of they can't really do much of anything, so we skip her activation. And Brimstone activates next, and he realizes now he's being shot in a crossfire between both Outlaw to his bottom as well to the top, with the Omni Blaster firing his mining laser from above. So because of that, Brimstone decides that caution is the better part of valor and decides to escape. And he spends his double activations doing him double moves forward, going outside the Long Store shack and around the corner where no one can shoot at him, hugging against the wall just because he doesn't get shot at during this time, which is actually a pretty smart move considering all the damage that's taking place on this battlefield. Meanwhile, the Omni Blaster, of course, decides to go for his activation, decides to double movements directly down the Sniper's nest in order to get back to the bottom. And as you can see, of course, the Omni Blaster has no problem dropping down to the ground level, hiding behind the Sniper's nest in order to protect itself because it only has 1 hull point left. And with that, we go directly to the end phase, so because of the Blade Runner has a roll to see if the driver is still unconscious, and unfortunately for the Blade Runner though, it is unconscious, and it's at that point that they decide to bottle out and to leave the battlefield voluntarily, just so that way they don't get wrecked, because it doesn't look like this fighter is going to be waking up anytime soon. So that's another racer that's been eliminated from the tabletop. So with that, it takes us directly to the end of turn number 3. As you can see, a lot of destruction is taking place on the tabletop. The Meat Wagon has also been eliminated now. There's only 4 racers on the tabletop because the Blade Runner decided to bottle out as well. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 4. My friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will be going first. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 4, and the Omni Blaster gets to get the initiative on this one, so the Omni Blaster will be going first. So the Omni Blaster decides to do a move simple action, deciding to leave the back of the sniper's nest, and also a fire all weapons action as well. As you can see, he does a movement directly out behind the sniper's nest, takes straight aim directly to the back door, grill doors of the Booster Gold, decides to open fire with his mining laser. Unfortunately though, for the Omni Blaster though, he misses his shot, rolls a 1 on his ballistic check, so because of that, nothing much really happens there. We then jump to Booster Gold's turn, and he decides, you know what, he's not going to stick around and figure out what this Omni Blaster character is going to do. He decides to do a double movement backwards, rear-ending his vehicle directly into the Omni Blaster. As you can see, he goes both whack double time directly into the front on the Omni Blaster, gets into a collision with that vehicle as well, so because of that, we're going to talk about the collision damage from that one. So Booster Gold does get +1 for his impact damage because he is a larger vehicle class. With the 7-inch collision, ends up striking at strength 6, minus 2 AP as well as 2 damage. Now striking at strength 6 and gets a front toughness of 5 for the Omni Blaster, so because that Booster Gold need to roll 3+ in order to wound. The wound is good, and with that minus 2 AP, the Omni Blaster armor save of 4+ drops down to a 6+, and unfortunately for the Omni Blaster though, he fails his armor save, so because it suffers 2 damage. And that 2 damage ends up being a catastrophic hit to the engine, causing belching smoke and flame, and it also takes off 2 hull points off the Omni Blaster. The only problem though is that the Omni Blaster only had 1 hull point left. So in a fireball of destruction, the Omni Blaster is wrecked. The driver suffers an out cold result, so because they will make a full recovery, but because the number of damage that the vehicle already has, as well as persistent rattle being one of them, the vehicle ends up being a write-off, so because of that, the Omni Blaster will need to spend credits in order to repair the vehicle, or will not be able to participate in the rest of the campaign. And with the Omni Blaster being destroyed, it ends up being the last 3 vehicles are on the tabletop, that being Booster Gold, the Outlaw, as well as Brimstone. The Booster Gold will take first place, followed in second place with Outlaw, and third place, of course, will be Brimstone. He spent the entire time hiding and running, which actually paid off for him in the end. So that being said, we're going to go directly to the post-game because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
Alright, now we're in the post-game, so let's go and talk about exactly what happened to each of the drivers. Unfortunately for Roadkill, he's suffering a memorable death, so because of that, Roadkill has been removed from the campaign and will no longer be participating in this Underhive Racing Campaign, being killed by the Outlaw. The Grudge Bearer was also wrecked in this battle report. The driver suffered lessons learned, so he earned 1 point of experience, and he also goes to recovery, so because of that, he will miss out on his next battle report as well. The vehicle also suffered damaged bodywork and also loses 1 toughness to all of its characteristics. However, though, the Grudge Bearer did not want to do that. He had a huge amount of credits left over, so he spent 170 credits for quality repairs that actually takes off all the lasting damage on his vehicle. Meanwhile, the Meat Wagon suffered a critical injury, so because they spent 100 credits in order for a medical escort mission, but unfortunately when it came to the roll to see exactly what ended up happening for it, rolled a 1, so because of that the Meat Wagon died anyway. So unfortunately, the Meat Wagon has now been eliminated from the campaign. Unfortunately for the Blade Runner, was unable to participate for most of the battle reports, so because of that she decided to ball out. Ended up being a better part for it because she actually increased her ballistic skill by +1 and also increased her credit value by 20 credits in total as well. Unfortunately for the Omni Blast, the driver did suffer an out cold result, so because that made a full recovery, but because of the persistent rattle on his vehicle, it ended up being a write-off on this one. Now luckily for the Omni Blaster though, he did earn enough experience points to learn the heavy foot skill and also increase his credit value by 20 credits in value as well, and he decided to spend 50 credits for repair on his vehicle and actually rolled a superficial damage on that one. So because of that, he will miss race number 5 unfortunately. In third place came Brimstone, who decided to wisely stay out of the fighting and just spend the entire time hiding and running for the most part. Learned the Jinx skills that we did a 6-up ward save against being attacked, and at the same time also earned +1 to Ballista skill. In second place was Outlaw, actually spent his experience points to earn +1 to his leadership, cool, willpower, as well as intelligence, and rolled the T-Bone skill as well, so it makes it a little bit more deadly in ramming actions against opponents. He also spent 150 credits in order to repair his vehicle and rolled quality repairs, because all the lasting damage on his vehicle had been removed. And finally, in first place was Booster Gold. They earned 2+2 to their ballistic skill, as well as +1 to the leadership, cool, willpower, as well as intelligence. Rolled up on the skills and actually learned the T-Bone skills, so making his vehicle even deadlier with his ramming actions. He also spent 75 credits in order to repair the handling glitch for his vehicle with quality repairs, so because his vehicle no longer has any handling damage. And at the same time, also spent 55 credits to purchase a blade of armor, all-wheel steering, redundant drive system, and an engine shell for his custom rig. So there you guys have it. This wraps up Battle Report number 4, Twisted Metal, for our Necromunda Wheels of Fury Underhive Racing Campaign. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. I am Commander Cheesecake. That's going to wrap it for this video. I will catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.